get it.
All right. Yo, welcome to another Reach Training Podcast, YouTube video, whatever we call this thing. We are back at it with episode number 9, 10, something along those lines. We'll have John fix that. But today we got a few topics we want to get into. The first one we're going to talk about is one that one of us has a lot of experience with, and that's playing defensive line. Obviously, I'm the one that has that experience, of course. Well, no, we want to cover just defensive line as a whole topic, right? So we want to dive into how to train a defense lineman. We want to dive into like the skill portions of a defense lineman. We want to dive into how you feel after a game as a defensive lineman, and maybe even talk about the differences, getting beat up in high school, college, and at the NFL level. So there's a bunch of topics that we're going to kind of cover under the defensive line kind of main topic that we'll get into. So, of course, Greg has all the experience, and he'll be able to kind of talk about the skills, what it's like, and kind of getting beat up, if you will. And then me and Brandon have trained several NFL D linemen, including Greg, that will be able to kind of talk about the demands and kind of how you develop certain attributes and how you develop your body to, one, take on the pounding that you're going to take on, and then two, develop the skills to compete at a high explosive level. So before we talk about the training side of things, Greg, let's just real quick touch base on defensive line is like, how does it change on each level, right? Like maybe the complexities of things, and then maybe talk about how your body feels, compared to at the NFL practice, compared to, when you were in Nacogdoches High School, just kind of that oversight of things.
Yeah, I think the biggest obviously the size of the players and, all that stuff that we can kind of quantify. But I think the biggest thing is just the speed and, like, the demands as far as, like, the mental aspect of it. A lot of people don't account for, like, O&D line, like, the mental, because it's such, like, a physical part of football that it's, like, they overlook the mental part of it. But we have just as many calls and stunts and things that we need to know, like shifts that happen in the backfield sets, or we might get a hot call from our linebacker or something like that. So there's a lot of, like, cerebralness to it, so you need to be on your stuff when it comes to that, as far as like playbook and knowing, and it, like, I've seen guys who are just amazing and they were just built and bred to play football, and they don't have to focus on those things. But the guys who I've seen that have been able to, like, progress and be the greatest, or the top of the league, or the people who've been able to get to the NFL, and then those people who are potential Hall of Famers, it's like the detail to those that mental aspect is there, and I think just the speed, right? Like in high school, you might be on the field with a guy who runs like a 6 flat 40.
Yeah, someone like Brandon.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
That's why I didn't want to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Someone had to. I'll be honest with it.
There's no shame.
No,
zero shame.
So whenever you're in high school, you'll be on it's a lot slower. Like, and you don't notice it because you've never seen the faster part of it, right? But when you get to college, I remember my first practice at Baylor, it was like probably like 4, maybe 6 plays. But it was like, the red shirt kids were getting in, and this was like, Greg Roberts. I remember Greg Roberts. So I run out there, and it was like the fastest 6 plays I had ever been a part of. And I after it's only 6 plays, I'm like, yeah, right. So that was like my first practice in college, and the speed was just crazy, right? Like fast forward senior year of college, and it's like snail slow. So you do adjust, and obviously the more reps you get at it, right, you can transition. And then when you get to the league, it's like,
what was the first practice like when you were at the league? Like whenever you got like contact practice, right? Not like walkthrough stuff. What was that like?
Yeah, it's like business. What I'm saying? It's like that fast pace, and it's like the guy in front. Like you might have a tackle running like a 4.8, 4.7. Your DT might be running like a 4.8. The guy on the other end is running like a 4.5. We got sub 4.4 DNs now in the league. So there's just the actual physical speed, along with like, okay, like this is a business. Like, okay, we're speeding it up. All right, can you keep up? Like, what I'm saying, with all this stuff, like in practice, coach wants to see how people respond. So you're put in these certain situations, and I think just physically, there's that physical aspect, and it's just like back to college. You're like, damn, it's fast until it slows down, right? Yeah. And then it's like, okay, like once I get comfortable and you get a little bit of confidence, you can start things going for you.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, which level? So from high school, college, pro level, which one had the biggest jump and adjustment? Was it college or high school to college, and that's a big jump, or was it like, all right, college to NFL, or what?
I would say for me, because I went to Baylor, like when Art Briles was there, that was the fastest offense, and the way we ran practice was, I don't know if y'all remember the little tidbit they did in Oregon years ago about how fast their practice was or whatever. So we were faster than Oregon. So like our practice had to match that speed, and it was more of like an offensive practice. So defense was like, you just got to go, right? So going from like Nacogdoches, you know what I'm saying, defense, practice, whatever, to like, it's like these guys, you know, you got Corey Coleman, Bryce Petty, all these, you know, crazy dudes in college, and they're on like a pace. Like the way they ran their offense, they just knew. So that's pace was just so crazy, and it was like it made us so much better because when we get in the game, it was like you know, you're just like waiting, and then you got, you know, you play, and then you wait again, and these people, you know, they try to hurry you up or whatever, the hurry up offense, and you're like, this ain't shit compared to practice. Because in practice, we don't got to check with the ref, right? It's like put the ball down, go. And they're trying to get us off, so it's real beneficial. But I'd say that was a bigger jump just because as far as the speed of Baylor, like I would say most teams in the NFL aren't that fast. Like as far as like how they want to run, there's more of like a pro style, right?
What about the game speed?
Yeah, game speed. So I never got a chance to play in a game from the injury with the NFL, but from seeing it on the sideline, like getting real close, real fast. You know what I'm saying? I would bet in. The thing about it is, like, I had an scout, like an older guy who went to Baylor. He kind of explained to me, he's like, you'll see these early in the season, you'll see these like 40-yard runs, 60-yard runs, you'll see these, you know, long passes. He's like, as the season goes on, he's like, you sure those things up on a defensive end. He's like, so you get less of those explosive plays, and it's just dudes just, bro, like I'm on the sideline. My first game, it was Vikings and Green Bay. And that was like an in-division rivalry anyway. Them boys was coming. You know what I'm saying? I looked at I was with Randy Ramsey. He was from Arkansas or whatever, and he was on the sideline with me. We looked at each other like, oh, shit, they hitting out there, boy. Like, it was like, woo. And you know what I'm saying? Like, on the side, I think it's different when you're playing, you're not thinking about it. But when you're looking at it, you're like, damn, like, y'all out there hitting, and they just pop up and be ready for it. Like, and that was week one, and I felt like because it was week one and you're rearing to get out there and you want to find those older guys can finally, like, let loose, that first game speed is, like, ridiculous. And then, it progresses how it progresses. Yeah. But, yeah, it was crazy. I think the violence of the NFL, just in
that's
like
a good word to put it. Yeah,
especially the line, but the backers, the safety, like how they come down. Like it's not, in high school or college, we'll have like a couple guys coming down from safety and like they don't want to hit. They want to hit. You know what I'm saying? Like they're coming to punish somebody. And the guy running the ball wants something to come. Like, please come so I can run you over. So I think the intent and the violenceness and that pace was crazy.
Different. Gosh.
Violence is a good word. I've heard you, whenever you work with some of the D-line kids in the area, you use the term like violent. Be violent with your hands. Be violent with your intent, right? Yeah. So maybe let's go into, before we talk about like specifically training the next generation of defensive linemen, let's talk about how important the technique was from like your get off and your stance as you progress to the next level. Maybe some like different tidbits you learned, like when you got to the league. Like high school, you could just rush and not think, right? College, you learned some technique, but you were still like faster than the offensive lineman, or explosive. And when you got to the NFL, it's like, damn, I need to fine-tune some things to have an advantage.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like that's the whole deal. Even what we do, like the training aspect of things, and anything that any athlete will do, like the point of practice is so you can groove those patterns in your brain, right? It's like, I'm going to do this 10,000 times. That's the rule. Like 10,000, you do something 10,000 times, you've mastered it. It's because you've grooved that pattern in your brain. And so when I get on the field, I don't have to think about, okay, I need my step to be here and I need my hands to be here. I've grooved that pattern so that when I'm thinking like I need to get there now, naturally my technique is there because I put in that work, right? And I've seen people do it all kinds of ways. Like, I'm not going to lie and say everybody in the NFL has great technique. They don't. Like, some people, like I said, are just made to play football. But those guys who get to that next level, their technique is insane. And the violence part, where I always try to tell to my high school athletes or anybody in college or whatever, like, there's another level of physicality you don't realize you have. And the reason I know that is because I thought I was pretty physical. And Coach Ocam at Baylor brought us in there and he showed us some NFL like stunt tape. And it was like Von Miller coming down from a 5, crashing into the guard, like ear hole in the guard, like knocking him the fuck out, you know what I'm saying? And getting to the quarterback like before the wrap was supposed to get there, because the way the stunt was, like he was just supposed to take the tackle with him. He blew the guard up, took the tackle with him, got the sack, and the coach was like, this is what we mean, you know what I mean? Because when they're drawing it up, it's just lines on a paper. He's like, y'all bring this alive. He's like, if I tell you, like, when you're rushing, you need to keep gap integrity on certain stunts and stuff. So if I'm a C gap rusher and I'm stunting to the B gap, I have to stay in that B gap. Well, they'll do something on the offensive side called a slide. So they'll slide, right? And forever it would trip me out. I'm like, coach, they're sliding to me, so I can't, like, he was like, bro, run through the guard. If you take the guard with you, that's your gap. You know, and then, like, it clicked for me, like, oh, like, this isn't pretty. Like, this is violent. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's the sort of intent I try to tell these kids. It's like, it's the only sport one of the only sports now at UFC and boxing, like, you can go out there and, like, essentially try to murder somebody and, like, you won't go to jail. Like, you get to let out all that aggression, all that whatever you got in you. That's where you can go and, like, let it out. And to get a kid to see it is different than to do it, right? Because it's like, football is that kind of way where it's like I can't always do it unless I see somebody do it, because I'm like, okay, that's what it looks like.
I know what it looks like.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Or, like, you got to do it that one time. You know, like, you ever seen a kid, like, struggle, they do it once, I'm like, I got it, eureka, right? That's sort of like what it is, and that's what I mean whenever I'm telling these kids, like, be violent. So that's essentially the demands of the. And I feel like that's, you know, the best D lineman. That's how you describe them. They're violent. They're nasty. They're finesse or whatever, you know, finesse, quote unquote. Yeah. But like Micah Parsons, he's finesse. But is he really, or is he a dog? Like a violent, just get out of my way. Like, I'm getting there regardless. And that's sort of.
Hey, man, they don't call those defensive linemen dancing bears for no reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, man. I mean, probably some of those most agile athletes I've seen up close. A couple of them been defensive linemen.
Yeah, no, and I think now, like, the reason for it too, right? As the money goes up, you'll see those positions sort of like where D-line was like, you know, maybe a few years ago, it's like, no, you get paid top dollar to be a rusher. So, like, now you get all your great athletes. If you're big and you're sort of athletic, okay, let's try you at D-line, right? Because we can get you paid. Like, opposed to what it, you know, maybe a tight end or something like that. Like, I'd rather in the league, if you're going to get paid max money, do you want to be a D lineman or a tight end? Probably D lineman, because they're the ones, you know what I'm saying, getting to the passer.
Getting to the most important position on the field.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. And to that point, so a little bit of love for the QBs.
No big deal.
They're all right or whatever. They just, you know, got to know everything. That's got to be. Everybody says cornerback. That's got to be the hardest. Quarterback has to be the hardest position.
Absolutely. Just look at my college stat line and you'll
100%.
But I want to touch on a few things before we move on, because you mentioned the word finesse. Talked about it a little bit. I think the word finesse is used because, they're explosive and powerful, but it's a finessed movement because there's no wasted movement. There's no wasted energy. Every movement they have is like a clean, pure movement for them to get to point A to point B. It may look differently compared to, you know, how you rush and someone else, but, like, there's, like, a planned attack behind it. And so when it comes to, like, training a defensive lineman, say, like, from our setting, our point of view in the weight room or the performance side of things, like, understanding their demands, understanding, like, their steps when they rush, they can take off whatever their third steps, like, whatever it may be, understanding that and making sure they're strong, powerful, and stable within those positions, right? So the younger you are, obviously, the more just pure development you need. The better you get, the higher up you get, the more specific you get, the more, like, detail-oriented you need to be to kind of set yourself apart. So, like, with our training or you know, any defense lineman that Brandon's trained in the past, like, understanding, like, those demands and then finding those movements they need to be strong in and then, like, replicating it. So, like, technique-wise, y'all are able to kind of reinforce it, but then you can be strong and stable in that position. So I think, like, now that you've transitioned from, do you have anything to add to just, like, the training side of things?
No, I mean,
I'll hit it real quick.
You hit it right. Understand the position. Also understanding, you may not be able to recreate it in a strength conditioning setting, but understanding that their movement from jump to from point A to point B, 10 times out of 10, they're going to hit contact immediately. So knowing that there's the movement that you're trying to recreate, but also knowing that they're recreating that movement under pressure. I mean, like, against force. Literally, they're coming, they're making contact, and they're doing that finesse movement, making that angle under stress, and finding some ways to recreate that, whether it be in the strength training, the movement, the agility training, understanding that that's going to be a part of it, and knowing that, you know, at a certain point of fatigue, tapping into that intentional movement and not wasting motion is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Body control and awareness is just like
100%.
important in every sport, right? But especially when someone's trying to knock you
100%.
out of position,
Yeah.
right?
And you got to think too, like the reason it's so important, like for D line, is like how fast are they getting that ball out? The quarterbacks,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
They ain't trying to hold on very long.
2.5. Yeah, exactly. Like 2.5 seconds,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
dog, you ain't got time to
And we
waste.
kind of made mention to that last time. We were talking about with the QBs and being, not always being, more times than not, you're making a throw or you're doing something off path.
Mm-hmm.
I would say defensive lineman's probably off path a bunch.
All the
You're
time.
not always you don't ever, I don't think, ever have just a perfect center of gravity.
No,
You know
they
what
did
I'm
a
saying?
crazy stat when I was in the league, and it was like 60+ % of all rushes come off your second and third effort.
Right.
So meaning like you'll like rarely will something look like how we practice it.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
It's always gonna be like 60. We can say 60+% of the time you're gonna be in those funky positions, having to get busy.
Yeah.
Man, no, that's good stuff. So before we transition, just to stay on this topic, just a few more minutes.
Great topic, by the way.
It's
my
not
favorite
bad.
topic
Yeah,
so
it's
far.
good position.
Fantastic.
nice
position.
second-tier
Puts fear in
position,
the hearts
like-
of the ones who needs
The
fear,
guys that
you know
make
what I'm
$500 million. Yeah.
Hey,
but,
how do you beat Tom Brady, greatest quarterback ever?
the guy that won 7 Super Bowls?
Yeah, that guy. How do you beat him?
Good
How'd who
pass.
beat
Rush
him?
the pass.
Good
You do.
pass rush.
Yeah.
Eagles.
Yeah.
Come on,
Best
baby.
defense, a good pass
Yeah.
rush.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, get it out, baby. You got something you want to say about
No, I got-
D-line?
I got-
No, say it.
no, I got no Tom Brady thoughts. The only reason I'm saying Tom Brady is maybe like that will get in the algorithm of things, and people people will start looking up our stuff like Tom Brady this, Tom Brady that, Giselle, whatever.
Wow.
Yeah,
But anyways,
I do have a Brazilian wife.
it's true. You do have a Brazilian. Yeah.
I feel you, Tom. We got
Yeah.
more. Well,
No. You don't. Yeah. It's
Stop.
But anyways,
Stop. Somebody's got to say it.
yeah. Tom Brady. But anyways, back to the topic, which I forget, but I think it was defensive line. Let's kind of just wrap it up with you being in Austin, and now you're transitioning to training defensive line, skill work, but also in the weight room and kind of assessing them. Let's talk about like what you look for when a new D lineman, D end, or any edge rusher, right, whether it's outside backer or maybe. What do you look for like when you're kind of like assessing them, like before you get in the training setting? You obviously will assess them, go through a process, and then depending what they want to do, it's just skill work or weight room work. Can you kind of talk about that process and kind of how you were kind of blending everything together and making it like as individualized as possible, and like what that program kind of looks like?
yeah, if I had to say the most important thing whenever you're assessing a kid as far as D-line would be like ankle and hip stability and mobility.
Yeah.
So if those things are just because of the position that we're in and our stance, right? Like I'm constantly with my knee bent, my ankle bent, my hips, you know what I'm saying? So that always has to be right. And as far as the skill work and the training goes, I feel like there was a time in my career where I emphasized skill work and I got a lot better on the field. I think it's like super important. But with that being said, there's nothing like you can have all the skill in the world, bro. But if you're not strong, if you don't got some weight on you, if you're not explosive, it's not happening, right? You know what I'm saying? You'll be a hell of a coach. That's what'll happen. You know what I mean?
Be like me.
I mean a little bit, no. No. But I that's what I would say: the hip and ankle mobility, stability, and then the anti-rotational portion of everything we do. Like it's so often overlooked, especially for these freak athletes like we talked about. They you know what I'm saying, they're like, what's core, like now I think more now, like being 2022, there's more core stability stuff being implemented in programs. But when I was coming up a few years back, it could be easily overlooked, and I'd say that is one of the most important things, because you got to think like you said, as soon as we get off, you got to anticipate force. And now I don't know if I might be going for my guard if I'm a tackle, right? But this tackle they might be zoning this way. This tackle's on me, so now I'm in a twisted position. My feet are all mixed up. Not to mention pass rushing, where it's like if you're a DN, it's complete separation on your lower half and your upper half, right? Yeah. So it's like my feet are going one way, but I need to be doing
my
this.
hands are elsewhere.
You know what I'm saying? And then a double team, trap block. There's so much stuff that we deal with that is like, and we're big boys, and you don't gotta have an 8-pack, like I used to want, but you gotta. I mean, I have it now.
Can you show us real quick?
Man, please don't. Hey.
No. My wife feeds me good, but no. Yeah, I think that. Yeah. I'd say ankle mobility, stability, hip mobility, stability, and a strong core is gonna get you what you want.
Yeah.